All right, hi there. Mr. Ed here from Mr. Ed Draws, and the Art Addicts Alliance, whom I am a member. His recent prompt is One with Nature, and we had 15 artists, including myself, who contributed to that prompt, and we also had one guest artist who contributed to that as well, and that was, let me see if I can show you here, Draw Art Lab. Check out her video. She's our guest, our featured artist for this prompt. She did a really cool impression, and I'll be doing a review of that, but I wanted to do the reviews in shorter groups. So I picked kind of going in alphabetical order. I picked five artists, and I'm going to do their reviews, or review their work for the prompt. Just because I like their art, and I know that artists like to get that feedback. For me, sometimes it's not enough to just practice something. Sometimes it takes a fresh set of eyes to maybe point out a direction that I didn't see before, so I can take the next step to elevate my art. So definitely a critique of your art is really important. Get that objective view. See what the audience is taking away from what you're trying to accomplish, and then you can kind of see how you're doing, and you can make better choices on how to improve and elevate the level of your art. And so I kind of offer my critique that way. Let me take this down for a second. Put my stage back up. There we are. Art Addicts Alliance. So I'm going to do a review for, let me adjust my mic here, ArtForFun, Blacksummer Colouring, Dory Stories, Hedi's Art, and H.I.T Art. I'll be doing reviews for those, so if you haven't checked out their videos yet, please check out their videos and then come back and let's share our impression. And you can leave comments below what you thought about each of these works, or if you agree or disagree, or if you think I touched on something that you want to expand on further, or maybe I completely missed the mark. Let me know down in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to open a discussion and maybe get a little bit more in depth about some of these offerings, because really that's what one of the funnest things about art is, discussing how it works and what it does to us in our brains and how it makes us feel in our hearts. So I love the process. Let me see here. Let's get to, first of all, let me show all of our artists here. We have 15 artists, and you saw Draw Art Lab's banners there. Megan Lou Who, formerly Razor, what was it? Razor something. I can't remember what it was, but it's now Megan Lou Who, and MiniSeaStar added her name to her banner. So I'm so happy to see the banners are a little bit more, I can tell who they are. It makes my life easier, I guess. Anyway, so on with the review. Let's look at ArtForFun's. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to explain how I'm going to do this review. I wrote down notes for cold impression or cold view, and that means the artist hasn't explained anything to me. I'm just looking at the art, and I'm trying to get an impression that's not biased. It's just my raw, what I feel from it. And then I listened to, if it was provided, the artist's impression, what their intent was, what they were trying to do, what they got out of the piece. And it's interesting to see how sometimes those things vary, and sometimes they're just right on the mark. So you never know with art. Sometimes your execution of your intent can be right on, and still the audience doesn't see it that way. So it's strange how the brain works. I'm also going to if I would change anything or add anything, or what I would do different if I was trying to execute the piece. And sometimes I can help artists hammer out, because I know I'm my worst critic. I am harder on myself than anybody else, because I know what I'm capable of. I don't know what other people are capable of, so I don't want to be as harsh, So but I do want to be genuine, and I do want to help. So if I can offer something that I would change, maybe it would help. But that's just me. The artist may love it just the way it is, and they wouldn't change anything. So it might be that way too. And what was the other thing I was going to, I was going to kind of see how well it went with the prompt. One with nature. You know, they might be great works of art, but we were challenged to kind of fit our work into a prompt. And I wanted to see how, because sometimes it's hard. An artist has an idea, sometimes they're all over the place, and getting focused, the prompts will help them focus. And sometimes the prompts do worse. It's too broad. So I do want to kind of mention and see how close the works got to what was intended. So that out of the way, what I'm doing to measure this. So on ArtForFun's, and you probably can't tell, so again, go watch her video and you can see really what's going on here. And she said that you couldn't really see the shimmering and the little speckles of bright things. When she tilted, every once in a while I could see it. I would love to see this face to face. I really would love to see this work face to face, because the palette on it is fairly muted. So I think any embellishments that are really shiny and catch the eye would play really well against that. So I'd like to see it face to face if I could. What can I say about this? It has a lot of movement in it, and that's really hard for me as an artist to convey movement in a piece. But I can see this figure walking through the scene. I can see this figure rising from the ground. You know, there's a lot of movement there. And I love how the contours of the subject is mirrored in the ancillary subjects, the background, the other trees there. I like how she's rooted to nature. I at first couldn't tell. I didn't get the impression whether she was emerging from nature or being absorbed into it. But I get the feeling that she's rooted to it, that she is, I don't know, fixed in place almost. And what else? What would I change? The hair. I think the hair would be great if it was green or leaves. I think that would be really cool. But there's so much movement in this hair. You can feel the wind. So I wouldn't change the structure of it, or even really the shape, the sinewy-ness of it. But maybe the color. I would go with green. But red works. It actually contrasts really well with the background. So I think if maybe went with green, it might have blended in too much. So that would just be a hard call. But if I had one thing to change, it would be that. Does this fit with the theme? Absolutely. I mean, we have the subject here. She's experiencing this osmosis. Her body is represented in the form of the other trees, and that's another thing too I like about this picture, is that the background subjects really help tell the story of what's going on here. Like I said, I couldn't tell initially whether or not she was emerging or going into, but I think she is. I don't think she's emerging from this. I think she's becoming a part of it. I really like this. I really do like this. The palette, I felt like the palette needed to be brighter, more vibrant. But then the more I looked at it, I was like, if you could see the shimmering and the little bright flecks, that would work great. They would play against one another perfectly. So I think having to see this face to face would really help figure out whether this palette is best for this, I guess. If I had to change something too, it might be maybe adjust the palette a little bit. Overall, I love this piece. The subject's exquisite, just really exquisite. So that's ArtForFun. Next we have Claire, Blacksummer Colouring. I love now this is when in the colors here are really vibrant. And the subject, I like the warmer tones, the kind of the darker tones there. I really like it. What I found curious about this piece was the expression. I really couldn't tell initially whether or not it's a sad expression, very introspective, like thinking mournfully, like for a loss. And I couldn't tell whether she was feeling that for herself, or feeling that for the viewer, or feeling that for her surroundings. But then the more I got to looking at it, and it's very subtle, I feel she's thinking inward. She's thinking about herself. You can tell she's decrepit, kind of emaciated, and I think maybe she's thinking about the past, thinking about how she got into the place that she's at. I'm not sure how the personification of the tree plays with the story. I'm not sure how it comes into the story. And this is one of the things that I found interesting about listening to Claire explain her process and how it came out in the experience, the viewer experience, because I think if she had planned her background a little bit more, and this goes into the one thing I would change about this, planning and using your ancillary figures and your ancillary subjects to help guide the story. It may not tell it exactly like an allegory, but it can give you some impression of the intent, maybe where this comes from. It's not always necessary. It's a beautiful piece without it. But I think Claire did mention that the background was kind of like maybe an afterthought. She wasn't sure. I do this all the time. I hope the subject will tell me what the background is supposed to be. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, I think it could have worked better. It doesn't really detract from the piece. In fact, I love the contrast of the warmer tones against the cooler tones in the background and how they all come together with the moss and the foliage. I think it tied it. It put it like a nice contrast on top of it. One thing I did want to say, though, drawing behind a subject, shading behind a subject, terrifies me personally, because it's hard to do and have this contiguous feel that it's not broken up into segments. And Claire did a fantastic job. I love how she just pieced it in like a jigsaw puzzle. I would have been afraid to death to do that because I would have felt like it would look like that in the end, but it doesn't really. It fits against it well. She has a really nice shading technique. I don't know if she knows but she does, because it shows up in how the textures are really nice in those trees in the background. So bravo job putting that background in there. It's just amazing. I couldn't have done it. Absolutely couldn't have done it. But I think since she did put so much time and technique in it, that if you had planned better, I think it could have told the story. Could have told more of a story. Still a beautiful piece. I love it. It's fascinating, really interesting. Every time I look at it, even now, I'm getting more ideas of what it's impressing me with. So good job with that one. And it absolutely does follow the theme. One with nature. We have a single subject, and she's among, the beauty of nature. She's a part of it, literally a part of it. So, you can't get any better than that. So let's look at Dory. Dory Stories. Check something out real quick. All right, Dory Stories. This piece here. I love the stylized mountains. Now, I don't think Dory intended. She said, my impression of this without Dory's take on it really didn't work so much, because I know that Dory is not a really big watercolorist and a landscape artist, so I knew that she was really out of her element here. So I definitely did depreciate my expectation as far as its technical execution goes. This piece isn't very technical. In fact, it kind of looks really simple. But here's the thing about it that really I love, and this is why artists are great no matter what they work in. Sometimes they don't have to be the best technically, is what I'm trying to convey here. The fact that this is kind of everything's muted, the textures are muted, the palette is muted, the shapes are muted, the subjects are muted, everything is just kind of diminished. So to me, I got the impression that it was maybe a memory or a look to the past. And you definitely get the impression when you see that there's a footpath there, and it's the only one, and it kind of logically it flows in your brain, even though you may not be aware of it, that if you have a footpath that's coming this way and you're looking at it, you're either following a path that's there or you've turned around and looked at your own path. I got the impression that the subject in this picture, we're seeing the subject's view, and the subject is hidden from us, and the subject's turned around and looked at their view in the snow, and they're looking toward the past. and you can see how it just kind of diminishes, and the elements just kind of fade away the further you get away from the viewer. And of course the trees up close are a little bit sharper and a little bit better memory. So I kind of got that impression that this was a look toward maybe serenity or solitude, turning around and seeing that the path to get there was really hard. Maybe at times it's really lonely, but then you turn around and you see the majesty and the beauty and all that you've been able to accomplish, and it definitely takes you to a zen. So I got that impression from her picture. And then when I listened to what she had to say about it, I thought that was really awesome too, because it was a memory. She was drawing upon a memory. It kind of, you know how automatic writing, automatic painting, our feelings and what we have, the conflicts that we have inside, despite our best efforts, do really kind of come out in our art, especially if we are less intentional, like we're more free with what we're trying to express. All right, that's Dori's stories. Love her work. And also, if you don't know, I'm sure you do, a lot of people who follow me know that we have a raffle, mega raffle. You can find a link to that on any of the Art Addicts Alliance prompts for this prompt, their art for this prompt, or you can go to the Art Addicts Alliance page on Facebook and find that and find out all about it, and get some good art or some art supplies. So give that a check. Hetty's art. Oh my goodness. I'm going to tell you what. My head exploded when I saw this. And in fact, I have like a huge list of notes here. Okay, there's so much going on here that I really kind of had to break it down. And my first breakdown is going to be my one thing I would change about this piece. There's actually like 3 paintings here in one. 3 paintings all in one. You could take a lot of what's in this and break it down into 1 or 2 separate paintings, and it would work fabulously. The tree and the bicycle on its own that's just a painting on its own right there. I think when you put that subject, which is so powerful, next to your subject that's in the middle, the two just kind of compete for attention. So I think that if I had to change one thing, I would definitely try to get those 2 apart, because they're really fighting. And I think what it does to the viewers, it makes them work really, really hard to figure out what's going on, and the intention of the piece doesn't flow as naturally as maybe the artist had intended. So that's my first thing I'd say about that. But once you get past all the stuff that's going on in this, then you can start sort of break it down. Let's see. So the figure represents let me see. I'll start with the bike. Yeah, let me start with the bike. The bike, of course, is obviously nature is taking this thing back, right? The bike was left there, and the tree just kept doing its thing, and the bike wasn't doing its thing, and nature won. So you definitely get the impression that there is a battle going on here. And I think that battle could best be stated in the idea that nature is always trying to break down structures. It's always trying to degrade and erode and change through the cycle of, growth and birth and death. A bicycle, or pretty much anything that people make, and humans try to do this, we try to sustain structures. We want to see things endure. And that's counter to the nature we come from. So there definitely is this war going on between nature wanting to destroy things and people wanting to preserve them. And I think that was captured well with this bike and that tree. And the subject, I got the impression that she's a genius, represented by a female figure. You have this motherly, nurturing kind of figure, which is, Mother Nature. That idea comes from a place where women they bring life into the world and the earth, and nature brings life to everything. So there's definitely that natural connection, and why you would use that as a subject. So it seems an obvious symbol. I don't think that she is creating nature, I get the impression that she's thinking about it, that she's considering it, that she's understanding it in a way that nobody else can. And know thy enemy, maybe it is, or maybe they're making friends. But I see the plant in the very center as an entity onto itself, and I see the subject, the woman, as an entity onto itself. And I'm not sure that she's trying to control it. I think she's just trying to provide a place for it, and maybe that's the truce of this battle that's going on. So I thought that was really interesting. And then the path that goes back, I don't feel like the path really adds to the subjects in the foreground so much. I think it's a nice enhancement. It maybe provides an atmosphere, but I don't think it really contributes to the story. I think maybe that could be a separate story on its own. But I love how it's all kind of enclosed, and it looks cozy. It almost looks like a womb to me, almost. So just a lot going on. I could probably study this for 2 or 3 weeks and could pull more stuff out of it. Really, really complex, really evolved, very highly nuanced, and fairly well executed in digital art. So bravo, really good job there. I like this one, and I'll probably watch it again. I'm pretty sure I will, because I just really liked how you did it. Hit art. I think this is my last one. Okay, yeah, number 5, hit art. Now this one, I didn't mention last, Hedi's art absolutely does follow the theme. I mean, 10 times over. I didn't even have to say that, really. But when we get to hit art, I immediately recognized that it wasn't as obvious that it followed the theme as the other pieces. The other pieces just automatically, just overwhelmingly, yes, it is one with nature. Hit arts was a little bit different. It had a totally different feel to it, and I found that curious right out of the gate. So I didn't go and listen to the artist speak about the piece before I reviewed it. So I did get the impression that the figure in front represents the idea of royalty, and the subjects in back represent the great equalizer, death, and how it doesn't matter if you're a king or a queen or a peasant, we all experience this promise that we will no longer be on this planet, and in that we're all the same. So I definitely did get that impression from this. The wreath, the wreath going around, I felt like that was a memorial to or a remembrance of, and I'm not sure what the remembrance or the memorial is, other than to just carry through this idea of death. So I kind of like that idea. If I was going to change anything, there's like a little bowl or a cup or a centerpiece. I don't know if it's to hold the wreath together, or if she's holding the cup, or if it's a bowl. I'm not sure what it is. But I think if there was like a seed, a single seed in there, or maybe just like a sprout of the plants from the wreath, I think it would have started the story of birth to this maturity to death. I think it would have just carried it all the way through. So that would have been my only change. Otherwise, I was fascinated by this. It took me a minute to kind of wrap my head around it, so I like that it was challenging for me personally, but that may put off some audiences. Some viewers just may not appreciate it, so they'll just pass by. They won't take it any further than just seeing this princess with some skulls and a wreath around it. I mean, it's really a lot more than that, and you have to take the time and really think about it. It's very well nuanced and nicely executed. It's a really large piece, so she did a really good job there. I like it. I really do. But I also wanted to say that the artist said that she wasn't a huge, she appreciated nature, but she wasn't a huge lover of nature, like out in it, bug bites and all. And I think that shows. It really does show in her piece. When you compare that of the other people who are used to being out in it, you can see that they bring that experience to bear. And you can tell that it just wasn't here in this piece. So I kind of missed that about it. I really do. So as far as following the theme one with nature, it does, but you have to think about it. You really have to do work on this one. So I think that's it for my review. Yeah, I think that's it. And I'm in for about 25 minutes. Yeah, that's pretty long for a review. Could you imagine if I did 15 of these? You'd be here all day. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. Be sure to watch all of the artists' videos. Support the arts. You can't go wrong. It's really, really important. And check out Addicts Alliance on Facebook. And if you want to see more videos, I'm going to do the rest of these parts probably over the next few days or so, and try to get all the artists in there. So if you want to catch those, be sure to hit the subscribe, hit the bell, so you'll know when those are going to happen. Comment below. Let me know what you think, because I really do love hearing if people agree with these reviews or what their different take is, because I don't expect anyone to agree with this. I don't expect anyone to outright disagree. You know, it's a very subjective thing, reviewing art. Everyone has their own experiences that they bring to bear on what they're seeing. So I just thought I would offer mine. And I appreciate you guys stopping by and watching. And until next time, you guys take care.